Okay, guys, before we start, I want to talk about this Bill C-51, and just want to give a quick background on what's going on. Okay, as some of you know, as many of you know, as some of you may not, that the Ottawa shooting, the Bebo and Cirillo thing, the charge at the War Memorial, the shooting at the War Memorial and Parliament was completely staged, fake event. It was 100% hoax, and we've proven this. We've proven that the shots fired down the parliamentary hallway, the 30 plus rounds, were all blanks. There was no bullet holes to account for any of those rounds down that parliamentary hallway. The 9 bullet holes around the corner that CBC claimed were bullet holes that Vickers apparently fired in his Matrix-style twist to the floor, emptying his clip, blah, 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 as Evan Solomon stated, was completely bullshit. Those 9 holes in that wall were actually there from 2013. They were not bullet holes at all. They were rivet holes of some type that held some type of monument or mural in place on that wall. These were not bullet holes whatsoever. Okay. And furthermore, there was more evidence to conclude this was a hoax. The thing that made me laugh my ass off was the gun that Bebo used, the rifle from the 1800s, a frickin' lever action. You know, I mean, if you're going to do something that ridiculous as to try and take on a whole parliamentary staff of security and RCMP and everything else, I mean, you sure as hell wouldn't use a frickin' lever action gun, okay? You'd be using a high capacity drum magazine or a belt fed machine gun or something to that effect. You sure as hell wouldn't be using a goddamn lever action deer gun, okay? So that was the thing that made me laugh my ass off right from the start, okay? Then they claimed Cirillo was shot in the back by Bebo at the War Memorial, which is, again, more bullshit. There was no blood. I mean, you get shot with a high-powered rifle at close range like that, you would have, first of all, you'd have a massive exit hole through your chest if you were shot in the back. You'd have profuse bleeding all over the place. Then, of course, there's the fake CPR they performed on Cirillo. And that in itself was another joke because you had seen the woman who was blowing into Cirillo's mouth, and the guy was pretending to pump on his chest, but he actually wasn't pumping on his chest at all. He was, because Cirillo's hands were crossed over his chest, you know, exactly where you're supposed to pump during the CPR. But this male was pumping off to the right side of his body as the female was blowing into his mouth simultaneously. Okay. So, excuse me. So that's the incorrect way to do CPR. Okay, if you try and do that simultaneously, you know, blowing into his mouth and pumping his chest at the same time, you're going to cause the patient to asphyxiate to death. Okay, because they're not getting any air as you're trying to squeeze the air out of him by pumping, compressing his chest, and she's blowing into his mouth. Well, you know, it's plain to see what's going to happen, right? You're going to kill the patient that way. So we could tell right there that these people were not trained in CPR. They were 100% crisis actors. Okay, they were not communicating at all during the CPR procedure, not even looking at each other. What they were doing, however, was looking around to see where the cameras were and looking very nervous that there was cameras on them. Okay, so that gave it away right there that this was a freaking staged hoax and that these people were crisis actors. Okay. What else was there? Oh yeah, there was the parliamentary assistant who took photos of the RCMP and the Ottawa police cars in place. There was almost a dozen of them in place at least 15 to 20 minutes before the shooting even commenced, before it even took place, okay? So that in itself proves that this thing was staged, okay, because the police were already in place waiting for their cue, okay? Then there's the fact of Cirillo's partner. I forget his name now, but the other guard who was stationed with him at the War Memorial. Where did he go to right after the event, after the shooting? We didn't see him. We didn't hear a word from him. The media didn't even interview him because he was apparently allegedly the best witness to this shooting. So where did he take off to, and why was he never interviewed uh, by anyone, by the police, by the media, by anyone? Okay. Then there's the fact we found Cirillo's real information. Okay. He had a temporary ID card which expired the day after the shooting. He was a temporary Canadian resident. He was actually a resident of the U.S. We tracked that down, and we showed that in a video. We showed his real name, address, and phone number. Okay, living in the U.S. So this guy was imported especially for this hoax. He was brought into the military regiment to play his role, to make it seem believable, and I'm sure to the military members that he was serving with in that unit prior to this staged hoax. I'm sure they thought this guy was a legit soldier, and little did they know that this guy was nothing but a crisis actor and a male model from the U.S. Okay. Anyways, let's go on to this article here, because we're talking about this in response to this Ottawa hoax. And before we go on to this article, I just want to say the Ottawa hoax is not just the only staged event. This is a global PSY-OP, folks, this whole ISIS thing. ISIS is run by the CIA, the Mossad, MI6, and the CIA basically have control of it. They're using contracted mercenaries to play the role of Big Bad Boogeyman. And as I said, the Ottawa event was not the only staged one. The Paris Charlie Hebdo hoax, that was staged as well. The Sydney Lint Cafe was a hoax. The latest Denmark one was a hoax as well. And we've all proven this. We've showed this in videos. We've broken them down step by step and showed you how they pulled this shit off, and showed you how these things are hoaxes and staged events to bring in this global, because each country is bringing in the same type of Orwellian draconian legislation to control the populace, but mostly to control those who express dissent, those of us like myself and others who are exposing these government staged hoaxes, these government staged false flags. And as Hillary Clinton said years ago, there's a propaganda war going on, and the governments around the world are losing. And this is the whole reason why they're staging these events, like the latest one in Ukraine. The U.S. State Department staged that one, this coup in Ukraine, which forced the duly elected president there to flee for his life to Russia. They then installed their puppet government with that, what's his name, that Rothschild, former central banker, the bald-headed dude with the glasses, Yanepsky or whatever his name was. So they installed their puppet government, and then they tried to blame Frame Russia for the MH17 downing. Russia combated their allegations by showing the actual satellite footage showing that the Ukraine military had the Buk 1 missiles in place near the area of the crash, and that they themselves actually brought this plane down to Frame Russia. Okay, so that thing was again another staged hoax to try to demonize Putin. There are now the U.S., Canada, and the UK are basically the NATO forces are trying to place ground troops in Ukraine to they want to invade Russia, of course, and they're using the guise of training mission to legitimize them placing the troops in Ukraine. And of course, Putin isn't stupid. He knows what's going on, and because he's pretty much a master chess player. He knows exactly the moves before they even make them. So he knows what's going on there. And this is why they also tried to frame him for the assassination of Boris Nemtsov, the former opposition leader of the opposition in Russia. And they're trying to make it look like Putin had him assassinated to eliminate the opposition, which, of course, as we've shown through the coup in Ukraine and everything else, and the MH17 bullshit, that this is all a Rothschild plan to try and overthrow Putin, the same way they're trying to overthrow Assad in Syria right now. Okay, so this is all a staged events, folks. And you're being bullshitted through the teeth on a daily basis through the mainstream media. This is why I say, I believe bugger all, zero, squat that you hear through the mainstream media these days, because it's all government scripted propaganda through the intelligence agencies, through the Five Eyes, and this is the way it works. But anyways, here we go with this. Let's go through this Nazi-like legislation. And the reason why I call it like Nazi-like legislation, because if you look through it, it sounds like it's taken right out of the World War II Nazi Gestapo playbook. Because they're trying to demonize anyone who expresses protest, anyone who expresses dissent against the government, especially in regards to online dissent. And especially in regards to their staged events, which they fear are exposing them as the real terrorists, which of course they are, because anyone who stages stuff like this against their own citizens is not a government at all, but a tyrannical government, as the former founders would say, and is not a government that should be in power. For the record, I thought Harper was the greatest thing since sliced bread. If you would have asked me 10, 20 years ago, because I voted conservative all my life, basically. And but now I see how much power changes people, how much they're trying to form this North American Union, how much they're trying to form this New World Order and use these invasions like a real world game of Risk, invading countries one at a time. And of course, this is why they staged the whole 9/11 event, to basically spring off this whole global conquest of invading countries, staging coups, overthrowing their governments, and installing these Rothschild puppet governments in all these countries. Rothschild-controlled puppet governments and puppet leaders. And I hate to say it, but Stephen Harper has become one of these Rothschild-controlled puppets through the Council of Foreign Relations, through the Trilateral Commission, through the Bilderberg Group, and that's how it works. People with a real IQ know exactly what I'm talking about. As for the brainwashed people who believe everything they see in the mainstream media, they have no clue what's going on. They think it's all conspiracy nonsense, and basically have their head in the sand and like a frickin' ostrich, and have no idea what's really going on around them. So they're trying to bring in this Nazi-like legislation to legitimize their this fake war on terror and their fake ISIS group. And, as a means to have total power and control over the populace and eliminate all your rights and freedoms under the guise of protecting you. And what was it George Washington or Jefferson that said, those who would trade liberty for security deserve neither? Okay. And this is exactly what they were talking